Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour. I'm your host, Jake White, and today I'm talking with someone that's really inspirational from starting her own shoe brand and shoe company that went insanely huge. And today I'm just so inspired by how she is putting students in recovery first. And she's starting, I'll have you, Alejandra, verify this, but I think the first recovery school in Arizona,
Correct.
which, oh my gosh, that's incredible. So, everyone, this is Alejandra Gastelum. So, Alejandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And so sorry it took us so long to get here. I couldn't wait to do this. I've been so busy because, I work for an adolescent treatment center right now. And so with that job, and then also, getting Power Academy, ready to, hoping to open by the end of this year. It's been crazy. It's been insanely crazy busy.
Oh, I believe it 100%. You're one of those people that I look at and I ask, how are you doing all of this? And so, like you said, this is like a conversation we've both been looking forward to after seeing each other at different events and stuff like that around Arizona. So for people that are just meeting you, can you kind of give us your quick history on how you got to where you are, and then tell us a little bit about Power Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned about the shoe designing, so I was a shoe designer for 11 years. I'm originally from California, Pasadena, California. I started my own shoe brand, Alejandra G, in 2010, and it was a global shoe brand, just doing amazing. Then I fell into addiction. So the addiction changed my course. It didn't stop my company, but it changed my purpose and my passion for what was important in this life once I got sober, what God did for me and everything. And I ended up shutting down my shoe brand after 11 years and staying in Arizona because this is where I came for treatment. That's what brought me to Arizona, and deciding that I was going to help others, get out of, addiction and crawl back into those dark places with them to help them out. So I've been working in the field for about 5 years now in the behavior health field. And my passion has always been adolescents. I started to work for an adolescent treatment center, and I was really seen. So prior to that, I was working with adults, and I had always wanted to work with adolescents. There's not as much, I mean, as you know, there's not as much adolescent treatment that there is adults. I mean, we have a ton. So it's much easier to get a job working in an adult center than it is an adolescent. So when I started working with Horizon Recovery, I was able to, I work on the front lines. I do admissions, and I'm the community liaison. So I was seeing, what was going on with these kids and, the families, like the stories that they would tell me. And one thing that I realized was that there is not, for example, like adults, once they're done with treatment, they go into sober living. So they go into some kind of supporting environment because that's what you're supposed to do to transition back into life. You can't just jump back into your regular life, right after you get sober. So there was a lack of, that continuum of care for kids. And what I was seeing is kids are in and out of treatment. And I just realized that, with all the parents that I talked, I mean, since the last year and a half, I mean, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of parents, and it's the same story, kid in and out of treatment. The second they go back to their high school, they relapse. And this is actually statistics. Within 2 weeks, they relapse, and within 6 months, they're back in treatment again. They're essentially going right back to the environment they got sick in, right? And that's just not, treatment 30, 60 days is just not enough time for even an adult to be able to just jump back into those environments, right? So I had
Wow.
actually started, which is funny. I had started already before I had even known what was going on, specifically with Horizon and all the clients that we have, dealing with there and the families that we work with. I started researching recovery high schools, and just because that's my passion. I had seen a documentary on TV about recovery high schools, and I was shocked to learn that we did not have them here in Arizona, especially that Arizona is known for one of the top places for treatment in the United States. I mean, we're literally oversaturated with adult treatment. So I, of course, I'm like, I prayed on it and God was like, do it, let's go. So I started reaching out to the Association of Recovery Schools. I went out to their first conference. My mentor is Sasha Coles. She runs the largest recovery high school in Houston, Texas, called Archway Academy. She actually just stepped down from that position after, I mean, taking that school to just an amazing level. But she's still my mentor. So she kind of helped me navigate what all this looked like. What it takes to run a recovery high school, as well as the Association of Recovery High Schools. They have been incredible with just kind of, showing me like what the blueprint looks like. But every recovery high school has their own like niche, right? They do it differently in some way, but there's key components that all of them have. Um, so, if anybody is ever interested in learning about recovery high schools, the first place to go to is you'd want to go to the Association of Recovery High Schools website and kind of see, what they have there. So I went to their conference. I met all of the other, this was last year. I met all of the other, recovery high school owners. There's currently 46 recovery high schools in the nation right now. When I learned about not only what they did, but actually visited these schools, saw the environment and the way these kids were thriving in their, not only in their sobriety, but their graduation rates and mental health, I was sold. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Everybody said it's very difficult. It's very difficult to open up a recovery high school. Not only that, because it is essentially like a micro school, it is a lot more expensive to run, right? So
Okay.
after doing all this research, preparing what was I going to do for this recovery high school, what was it going to look like? I got all that planned out. Who was my team going to be? All those really crucial starting kind of things. I started working on it. I started developing what my program was going to look like. I feel like I've developed an amazing school that I'm working with this the school district right now. I'm not even going to say what school district yet, but I plan to open up with multiple school districts across Arizona. So power is not going to just be just in one location. It'll be in multiple locations to cover more of the kids that need it. But a couple of things that really sold me was not just seeing these kids in person in the schools, holding each other accountable. It was the cool thing to be sober. They didn't have to deal with the peer pressure, of everybody else and things like that. And then, they have the community of other kids that know what they're going through, and they just become like a family, So not just that, but then the statistics are incredible. It is over a 65-70% increase in abstinence, in graduation rates, and mental health. They also did a study on regular intervention, which would include RTC, PHP, IOP versus a recovery high school. And now we're not what's the word? A replacement for treatment. We are not treatment, right? A recovery high school is not treatment. So with just regular intervention of the things that I just mentioned, 70% of kids relapse. With a recovery high school involved after their care, 30% relapse. That's a
Wow.
significant amount of kids. And when
Oh my
we're
goodness.
talking about Arizona too, Jake, we are looking at it does not just increase the substance, the abstinence, and the mental health, but the graduation rates. You know that Arizona has one of the number one dropout rates in the nation. 729,000 kids dropped out last year from high school in Arizona alone.
729,000.
729,000 kids. Most of these kids are now doing online high school, which is not beneficial to them because it creates isolation, lack of being able to, know how to, what's the word? Like speak with other kids. And what's that word I'm looking for?
Yeah, like soft skills and
Yeah,
social
social
skills
skills.
and
There you go.
collaboration.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Wow.
parents are, are really worried, but these kids dropped out because one, their mental health, two, some of them substances. There's a lot of vaping going on in schools, and a lot of kids are getting expelled.
Yeah.
So and then they just don't want to go back to school. There is so many kids per high school that they don't get, they just don't know if a kid is something is wrong. They have too many kids to worry about that. They don't have
Yeah.
any type of individualized care, So with the
Hmm.
recovery high school, it is essentially for kids. It's either they can just have mental health or substance use as well, or both, right? So
Yeah.
we're supporting both of those groups, because they're just not going to thrive in a regular high school that has thousands of kids. A recovery high school only has a max of 70. And that is because we want to have very individualized care per student. I want to
Okay.
know every single kid's name. I want to know if they seem off, like, because there's so
Hmm.
much less kids, right? That we're able to tell
Yeah.
when something is going on, and really give them that individualized care that they need to support their sobriety as well as their mental health. So
Okay. Alejandra,
the
for
go ahead.
for at this, like, just hearing your story,
Mhm.
it seems insane that Arizona didn't have one, but it takes someone like yourself, someone to identify and then say, right, why are we not doing this?
Right.
Putting it together. And it seems to make so much
Hmm.
sense. And the statistics are there.
Hmm.
Even just looking at the common sense factor of, hey, a student goes through treatment and then they're put back in the unsafe environment. Of like, of course, relapse rates are so high in that way.
Right.
So this is such a great solution. I'm I'm curious, can I ask you kind of like almost to dissect this? So I want to ask you probably like 4 or 5
Yeah.
questions. Number one, if someone's listening to this and saying, wait, that's actually a gap in our continuum of care as well, we should consider having a recovery high school. First of all, who are the people that you've met so far? And you're like, yes, you need to get these people on board.
Hmm.
Who are those people?
So I would definitely, it's the Association of Recovery High Schools is a small, who runs like the actual association. I would just go online, contact the Association of Recovery High Schools. Andrew Finch and everybody that's over there is absolutely amazing. I actually bought Andrew Finch's book on how to start a recovery high school, and it kind of also lays out some basic, plan of how to do it. But don't try to do this, especially if they've started this. If their model is working, don't try to go and recreate something that is already successfully working. On top of that,
Okay.
you do want to be accredited by them as a recovery high school. After 2 years, you're in business, you're able to get accredited. They'll come and see the school, and approve that you're running everything that needs to be in place for a successful recovery high school. So that would be the first step, is getting in contact with the association, letting them know what you want to do, and helping them kind of guide you. But it's a lot of your own legwork, to be honest with you. It's, you're talking about, there's so many different ways. The only thing is every recovery high school has opened up differently. So
Okay.
there's some that are completely nonprofit, some that charge a tuition. A couple of them have actually become their own charter schools. There's just so many different ways to open it. You really have to kind of navigate how you're going to open it. Some have, got completely funded by a governor. There's just so many different ways. And, for me, it's it's a lot harder to open up something like this in a state that it's never been done, because you're trying to prove a new concept, not a new concept, but a new concept to that state, right? So
Yeah.
people understand. Everybody is like, yay, clapping their hands for me, but it's not a lot of people stepping up to actually help. But I guarantee you, once it opens, everybody will say, oh, yay, they show
Yeah,
up for
I
the
knew
red
her.
carpet or the ribbon cutting. But so I've been
Yeah.
having to deal a lot with that. Just everybody is, there's not one person who hasn't said this is absolutely needed, right? I've been to governors and mayors' offices and everything like that. And, I'm going to, at this point, other than I'm trying not to go after grants, most of the recovery high schools do not use grants. They just don't want to deal with all the little intricate details that go into grants. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to try to do it that route unless there's a really large grant. I'm not going to go after all these little ones. It's just way too
Yeah.
much work. So I'm going to rely on the community to help raise money for these for this school. I have not started raising money yet. And that is because my location right now, which I'm just praying about, I should know maybe today or latest next week. They're just doing some checks. I will actually have something way more than I imagined. Most recovery high schools are actually ran out of either commercial buildings. They're also ran out of churches, not any type of religious connection, just using, a lot of churches have like school, like
Yeah.
office spaces. I'm actually going to have a potential school campus, an actual school campus.
Oh.
So I'm very excited about that. So I should find out, like I said, either maybe today or next week. And where was I going with that? I lost my train of
Um,
thought.
that's okay. Because we were talking about the people you need,
Oh,
and then
yes,
you were
yes,
talking
yes,
about
yes,
how,
yes.
yeah.
So, everybody opens up differently, so that's the one thing that you're going to kind of have to navigate. And then on top of that, it's kind of funny. I told the association, I told Andrew Finch this. I said, when I first met with him, I said, I am going to be the top recovery high school in the nation. And
Yeah.
not in a way, I am the most humble person, not in a way that's like, oh, look at me. It was more that I want to set the standards higher. I want to raise
Yeah.
the bar for the next people coming in, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I am actually the first recovery high school, and they're all like, how did you do that? But I am the first recovery high school that will actually have IOP on campus. So they are actually mandatory for them to do IOP, which is the step down after RTC that they normally would do. So normally when kids leave a treatment center, they go back to the regular high school and then they do IOP, intensive outpatient treatment, in the evening, right? They're
Okay.
always coming back to us from IOP because it's that time that they're at their school that they're then screwing up the IOP part because they're relapsing, and then IOP has to send them back up to a higher level of care. So, or they don't show up to IOP because, they didn't make it, they were tired after school, or parents, couldn't make it. There's always something that can fall through the cracks. So with my school, we're going to have it after school, no excuses. You have to go, whether you go on my campus or another campus, you're mandatory to do, unless you've already completed IOP prior, like 30 days prior to admission. That's fine, but you have to be working an active program.
Okay.
So the IOP is the one thing that I'm going to have it on school campus. And then I'm going to have boarding. So I'll be the first school to have boarding as well.
Wow.
Not right away. I want to make sure I want to get the school open and running, and then we'll see the need. And I know there's going to be a major need, especially when this is going to be the first campus. I have parents that are waiting all the way to send their kids to the school. Just I haven't even really talked about it to like the public, just more so, just industry people that, hey, this is coming. But
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth, I have parents already waiting to send their kids there. And I have even kids that say they don't want to go to any other school but Power Academy, just because they
Yeah.
know that they're going to be with other kids that are going through the same type thing. So I have kiddos that are going to be coming all the way from, Surprise to out in Chandler, so
Yeah.
there will be, I'm also going to have pickup locations too for the parents, so they don't have to drive them in. But then I do have kids in Tucson too, so those will more be the ones that will need the boarding, will be beneficial to them. And
Okay.
then go ahead.
Does I'm curious, is there anybody, as you've gone out and talked about this, is there anyone who either didn't want you to do this for some reason or was like, it created a challenge? Is there anybody who's like challenging this, or is everybody on board?
Everybody has been on board. I
Okay, that's good.
never
That's really
had, I have not had, I mean, I even sat at, you know, talked to Mayor Gallego, and she was just like, wow, this is like major for you. Like, thank you for taking on such a big, initiative.
Mhm.
And the thing is a lot of people don't, when I say recovery high school, people, what is that? Right? I mean, they hear the words, they understand what it could possibly mean, but what does that look like? And that's what I want to talk
Right.
about. What does a recovery high school look like?
Mhm.
Can I talk about that right now? Or did you have another?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it. Let's do it.
So
Mhm.
essentially the key components is obviously they are not, this is not treatment. And I'm going to repeat that because it is not. So this is the continuum of care, or kids that are coming straight from school that are just struggling in school, right? They're caught vaping, things like that. Instead of getting them to the point where they get expelled, like this is the intervention for them, right? They can come to a recovery high school, even if it's for a couple of months, get some sobriety, some support under their belt, and go back to their school, right? It is open enrollment. So that's the key thing about a recovery high school. It is kids are going to be coming in and out all throughout the school year.
Okay.
It is regular education ran through. So it is a regular school day with certain things in between that would help support. They're going to have recovery coaches on site. So every student will be assigned a recovery coach. For me specifically, I have some pretty amazing things with, so I, you're familiar with the Meadows, right? The Meadows.
Oh
The
yeah.
Meadows is a world renowned program, is one of the top treatment centers across the United States. Their programming for families and adolescents is, like I said, world renowned. People want to buy it. So the CEO of the Meadows, Sean, he is absolutely, been supportive of Power Academy. So they ended up introducing me to two of their therapists that got trained in their programming, right? The adolescent programming and the family programming. So I'm actually, these my kids are going to get family programming. The families, we're going to have family programming from the Meadows, from the therapist from the Meadows, as well as the adolescent program from the Meadows. So I have two therapists
Yeah.
that will be coming in to do that with our kids on top of everything else. And that's top tier, on top of the IOP. The IOP is a separate
Okay.
component, but this is
Yeah.
something that is also going to be added in. So really
Okay.
everybody does, most of the recovery high schools, it's essentially the recovery coaches on staff and the regular education. Most recovery high schools have partnered with a school district so that they provide the education, and then the recovery high school provides the nonprofit side, recovery side, right? Because I'm not actually the school. The school district is the school. We are, and we just kind of collaborate in the same building to get this done. So I'm the nonprofit and that's the school. But like I mentioned, I think one or two, maybe, it might be two, but I know for sure one became its own charter school. So they're
Okay.
actually do all the education and, and all that too. And I don't want to go that route. It's just much, I don't want to focus on the education component. My expertise is not education, it is
Yeah.
recovery, right? So I want to love these kids so much that they're never going to leave. I get asked this question all the time. People say, so how long do they stay with you for? Like, and I'm like, well, they have to stay with us at least to complete IOP, right? But I said, and some kids come and go. Some kids will stay the entire 4 years if they want to. Um, but the way I'm going to love them, they're never going to want to leave. I'm going to bring in yoga. We're going to do, volunteer work, volunteer work is so important in recovery, not only for adults, but also for, kids and for anybody really in general. It's
Yeah.
cool, right? So I have so many things incorporated into this. I mean, we have college career readiness counseling that's going to be provided by the, Arizona Education Forward Arizona. I have so many different components to get these kids. I want to see these kids graduate, whether it's walking down our stage for graduation or it's another going back to the regular high school. I just want to make sure that that we're getting our kids, because people really forget how important this is. I mean, just in Phoenix alone, we have 43,000 kids using. In Phoenix alone, 43,000. I haven't even done the numbers all across the rest of the, the state. And on top of that, we also bring in 54% of the fentanyl distribution comes into our border, to
Yeah.
Arizona. So we're not having any, we're not seeing any decrease in substance use with kids and even adults. We're seeing an increase. So something is not happening here. We're not doing something right if we're seeing an increase consistently, right? So it's like we have to, and that's what I've talked to even government officials, we have to try something new. We have to try something new. All of this isn't working. Yes, do we have a lot of programs that go out and talk to kids in the schools? The best way to help these kids is to remove them from their environment, right? You can't get a kid better when they're 10 of their friends is going in the bathroom to vape at lunch and they're trying to stay sober. It's just not going to happen. So we have also a major component too, and I've talked to actually ASU about this. So the association, which is called ours, works with the Association of Recovery and Higher Education, the ARHE. And those are the CRPs, the Collegiate Recovery Programs. So there are like 140 some colleges that have collegiate recovery programs. This is to support teens with, that are in recovery and things like that. Well, at the conference, I got to meet the ARHE too, because they work hand in hand. Of course, if my kids are graduating from a recovery high school, I want to make sure that I'm sending them off, showing them all the amazing colleges that will continue to support their recovery. It does not stop in high school, and especially going into college, that is going to be a lot more difficult to not have that support and find that community of friends and things like that to be able to, have sober fun and know that you don't need to use or drink to have a great college experience. So
Yeah.
so I'm really passionate about also making sure that like ASU, and I think U of A has one too, that their CRPs are really, really good programs, so that I can feel comfortable saying to my kids that graduate with me, like, hey, this is going to be a good place for you to go, because their recovery program is going to be really supportive of you. So there's so
Yeah.
many things, Jake, that go into this. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, what I love that you touched on, and what it seems like maybe one of your strengths for building the program, is you are bringing people together. You're having these partners. Okay, the Meadows is going to come in for this program.
Mhm.
The school district is taking care of the education. I'm taking care of this part. So you're really developing partnerships. You don't have to create the entire structure, but you're finding, here's my strengths and here's what I'm going to do. And I love what you said, because like when it comes to prevention as well, is yes, prevention has like, primary, secondary, and tertiary, and intervention is kind of that secondary. Tertiary is addiction and treatment and stuff like that. But if we're going to see change, it can't just be education. It has to be action and community.
Mhm.
Like, just like the gap that you saw is, well, they went to treatment, but then there was no community piece.
Mhm.
And so you're building that community. And I resonate with that so much because of Vibe 18 and what we do. I'm like, we have to, there's no one silver bullet that's going to cure addiction. It's these community partnerships. And it's so exciting to watch you, because you're building it. And when you sent me a text like, hey, Jake, can you come throw a sober party with our kids and all that stuff? And I'm like, oh, there's nothing more
Oh,
I'd want to
you're
do. Like,
coming to Power
incredible.
Academy.
Yeah. And I'm like, and that's the enthusiasm. We see you leading the way. And we're like, yes, just make me a part of it. Like, what can we do to help? So from this point, I would love to end on this note. If you had to canvas your experience so far in creating this into like a simple outline, here's was step 1 through 5 that I did. And then I would love to end with just kind of how can people sign up for Power Academy, just like follow y'all and anything that you need. But can you give us that kind of
Yeah,
outline before we
and
say
I
goodbye?
want to say this last thing before I say that, because you're talking about community. it's going to take the community to make it work. This is not something you're going to be able to do alone. This is something that you're going to want to pull in different partnerships to help make your program the best that it could be wherever you're located. So let's go into an outline. So I did do, although it's not like because it is a nonprofit, right? That's another thing that people are really, really shocked about when they hear all the services that we offer. They're like, well, how much? And I'm like, it's free. They're like, whoa. And my biggest thing is my hardest phone call I have to make to parents is telling them, this is what you owe in deductible, this is what your insurance, you owe your insurance. And some families can't afford that. And we have worked with parents to try to do payment plans to help do as much as we can to support them. But I understand that if you don't get paid, you don't keep the lights open. Well,
Right.
I have it's still to me very conditional love with what I call conditional love. Like, yes, we want to help you, but you have to have the right insurance. You have to have this amount of money and things like that. And I understand that it is a business that has to, especially with all the therapists and clinical directors and everybody you have to pay and staff, you have to make money, right? I get that.
Yeah.
But me, I want to take on this unconditional love that says, you don't have to have the right money. You don't have to have the right insurance. I am going to try to take that. I don't want to call it not a burden, but carry that weight of trying to go out and pull in this money. So as a parent already dealing with the stress of their kids and the brokenness that they're feeling, understandably, to see their kids going through the things that they're going through, I want them to just be able to show up and not have to worry about how are we going to collect this money, right? So that's one of the biggest things that I have been, very adamant about. But okay, so going to how we do this. So first, you would obviously, like I mentioned, you want to contact the Association of Recovery High Schools. Research. I spent an entire year from January of last year up until November. I was on calls. I was going to visiting recovery high schools. I went to, they have their conference yearly. I just missed this one coming up because my work, but it was just in San Diego. Get involved so you can go to the conference. You can meet everybody. You can sit there and hear everything that goes on with recovery high schools and meet. And then just research all the recovery high school stuff. If there's obviously, I have a bit of a advantage because one, I've in recovery myself and I work in the field, so I already know what needs to be implemented into the program to make it successful. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't come from a background of behavioral health, I highly recommend finding somebody to bring in that has worked in the mental health field, or even partnering with going and talking to a treatment center and partnering maybe with a treatment center to do this. So that would be the first step. Make sure that you have all your apples in order, with ducks aligned, or whatever you call it. And then I created, even though this is not like an investor situation, like nobody can invest in this, there's no money to be made. I created a whole entire business plan. How is it going to run? What does it look like? How am I going to make money? What sources am I going to pull money from? I created an entire business plan. So I didn't even start any of that until I had done so much research and had a clear vision of what Power Academy was going to look like. I started that in like November. Then I started the business plan and did everything. And I'll tell you this too, if you're going to get it started, all recovery high schools are nonprofit. 100% of them are nonprofits. Even if they've become a charter school, they still have a nonprofit kind of portion or something involved in it, right? Get your 501c3 immediately, because that is going to take a long time. Big mistake I made. I am now officially a 501c3. However, it can take from 6 to 8 months. So as soon as you get your nonprofit, with the state and also your EIN and all that stuff, go and get your 501c3 right away if you're going to be a complete nonprofit. Then you are going to just, at the end of the day, it really, the next steps really determines on how do you want to set it up. If you want to go to, you want to start looking at grants. If you want to start looking at grants, you're going to want to see what grants can provide for a, uh, abstinence and, and things like that. You're going to want to go talk to whatever school, if you want to partner with the school district. That's another thing. School districts move very, very slow, understandably. They have a lot on their plate. You're going to want to start that conversation with whatever district that you want to go with immediately, because that is going to be a process to work with them. You're looking 6-7 months, even maybe even longer, right? So you want to start that conversation. So I guess really the key thing is to figuring out how you want to open up that school, and then figuring out what it is that you need to pull in, who you need to meet with in order to get the school done. So if you, like I said, a school district, go meet with that school district, start the conversation, figure out where you're going to get the, where you want to get the money from. I would even start meeting with, whatever city, like the mayor, city officials. If you can get to your governor, do it. I still have not got to our governor yet, but I'm praying I'm like close. I'd love to get to her. She comes from a social worker background, so everybody told me that she would love this.
Okay.
There have been governors who've allocated money for the recovery high schools, and then it kind of relieves the stress of having to, raise money every single year. My mentor raises $1 million a year, not through
Wow.
grants, $1 million a year for Archway Academy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, so it's crazy, but you don't have to run it. So some recovery high schools, they've started smaller. There are some recovery high schools that are literally running with 20 students. It's not the amount of students you have. If you can just change one life, it makes it all worth it, right? Even if you have 2 students, some are just doing it and starting in just like one room, and just getting the kids the support that they need. My mentor told me the one thing that, or two or no, 3 recovery high school owners told me the same thing at different times. I said, what is the one thing that you would tell me about, starting a recovery high school? They said, do not get caught on what you want it to look like. Just get it started. Get it started. These kids need it, because we all have this big, grand, beautiful vision, right? But that will happen. Get it started, prove the concept, especially if you're in a new city like me, doing in a new state like me, prove the concept, and it will come. Everything else will come into place, right? Um,
Dude,
and
that's
yeah, I
incredible.
think that, I think I think that's really it. And we have a website up right now. I did have the whole education component up, but I took it down because I ended up changing my partnerships. So I haven't, until that's closed with the partnership that I'm working on, I haven't put up anything. But you can see a ton of, details on, it's poweracademy-us.org. That's where you can
Okay.
find the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this, Alejandra. It's really
I
awesome.
am passionate about it. Like you asked me in the beginning, how does she do this all? It is passion that drives me. I cannot wait
Yes.
to meet my babies, my students. Like,
Aw.
I just want to love them all.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for you. Congratulations on all the growth. Again, tag us in whatever you need. If you need something, hit me up. Um, but we are cheering for you, ready to jump in and fundraise and like whatever else y'all need. I've got people for you to meet, all that good stuff. So
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
I can't wait to, I'm not doing this without you. You're coming on to once a month or whenever you want to, but to come and, just do something fun and different with the kids that, they haven't heard. They still need, some high schools actually bring in like the AA model and the 12-step model. I'm personally not going to do that. Will there be like principles and some concepts that are pulled from the AA or the 12-step model? Yes, but that is not going to be, implemented into our program. So I would love to have, like groups like you come in and really talk about stuff and make it fun and talk about the thing. Oh, and one more thing I want to add before I know I'm probably over. One more thing, something huge. Other than Power Academy, we have a secondary part of Power Academy called Power Up. So this is going to be for the kids, and the kids that get suspended from school. Instead of them going home because they vaped and doing nothing and watching TV, and it's a vacation.
Right.
They're going to come into Power Academy or to Power Up program. It's going to be separate from the Power Academy students on the same campus. And they'll spend a day, I don't know how many hours it is going to be yet, but like say 3 or 4 hours, actually getting some intervention. They'll learn about, the causes of vaping, what it does to the brain, what the marijuana does to the brain, and just the effects of, so that at least that when they go back to school, they have actually learned something about their choices that they've made, instead of just going back like, yeah, I just came back from a vacation. All right. And then vape.
Right. Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's restorative is the way to go. That's exciting that you'll have an area for that too. And for them to see how powerful Power Academy is. Okay, let's do this. Tell us what the POWER acronym is, and then we'll say goodbye.
I did not say that. It stands for Providing Opportunities with Education in Recovery.
Yes.
I know, it's not such a crazy, where did you come up with that? I'm like, honestly, I was praying about helping God to help me figure out a name. And I was thinking, power came to me, and I'm like, I don't want power, because power is an actual word, right? And I'm like, I wonder if it could be an acronym. I'm not lying, Jake. When I said immediately, I said out loud without even thinking, I was just like, providing opportunities with education and recovery. And I'm like, does that work? And I wrote it down, and I'm like, oh, it does.
It spells power.
I even called my sister. I'm like, do I have to have a letter for in? And she goes, no, you do not. That's not, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, this is perfect. So,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, for all of you listening to this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour, this has been our episode with Alejandra Gastelum. And I mean, if you're thinking about doing this, we have some call to actions. You have the association to reach out to. You have your partners. And we're going to, follow Alejandra on her journey. Go to poweracademy-us.org and check out all the things that she's doing. And if you're in Arizona, please make sure your partners know about this program, what's going on. See how we can partner up to support her and to send students there. Because like she said, it's going to be, I can already see it. The students are going to go there. They're going to be reluctant. They're going to fall in love with the community and love with their growth. And they're not going to want to leave. And I'm so excited to witness it. And I mean, this is just the perfect way to end. Check all of that out. Alejandra, thank you. And for everyone listening, we'll see you next Monday for another episode.